Three. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of your Morning Cup of Q&J. So Q and I, we are very excited we have decided to restart our podcast ish starting this week because we had really good time. We loved it when we recorded our first 10 episodes over the summertime. And in fact, we did receive some good positive reviews. So here we are again. And again, our format is simple. We are just going to share, talk about what's up, what's going on with our life. So we are recording this episode the day before election. And the reason we decided to do this is because we just want to update each other, catch up with each other. I noticed that since July or August, Q and I only probably talked for like twice and only like briefly. So I had no idea what's going on with her life. And so yeah, so in this episode, we just going to like what I called a transitional episode. We are just pretty much going to catch up with each other, update what's going on, what's exciting, like the different exciting projects that you are working on. So Q, what's up? What's going on?
Hey, JR. A lot has happened. The film we worked on got our premiered, and it just finished its premiere run yesterday. So, and actually, I was talking to my boyfriend about it, and he suggested to because he saw how much I had to cut because of the bullshit 5 minute. I'm just gonna say it, bullshit 5 minute
Yes.
limitation that eventually wasn't implemented at the premiere, which is I'm happy for everyone else who was able to go over, but I'm also like whatever. But I'm actually, it's interesting too because like that film, some of the films didn't age super well, if that makes sense, or not, they didn't age super well. They were, for everything was batshit crazy in
Yes.
our election. So yeah, I think what's also exciting is that I'm actually working on a couple of short narrative films this year. The way I've been tackling all of my anxiety with this bullshit going on around us is to think creatively. I actually just saw a quote from Kurt Vonnegut. He's one of my favorite authors. If you're not familiar with him, he's done stuff like Cat's Cradle. Let's see, The Science of Titan is one of my favorite books of all time, and he's got a particular sense of humor. But one of the things he said was like, he really emphasized the process of creating and just not focusing on the end product, but just doing it. He was an amazing humorist. He had such a particular sense of humor and comedy. He passed away in 2007, so it's been 13 years. But yeah, so I've just been focusing a lot, channeling my anxiety and other what I'm sharing a lot of with other people is into really creating things and really thinking long term, like kind of like, look, this is all really bad. There's no other euphemism about it. Like, well, what can I do right now to build up for a better tomorrow? And also just hugging my cat a lot. It's annoying
That's
her.
good. That's good. And I'm glad that you brought up creativity because, the last blog I wrote is about what I called battles of depression. There's the regular depression, and the regular depression the regular depression has met the COVID depression back in April. And right now, my regular depression and COVID depression have met seasonal depressive disorder. So now I like all the depressions have kind of merged together. And I don't know if you have seen that meme of three Spider-Mans pointing at each other. It's like COVID depression, seasonal depression, and regular depression. Like you look. So, and what I wrote is that one of the best ways for me to battle these depression is through creativity. I'm just really glad that since July, since August. In fact, I've been super busy. I so far no on November 2nd, I have already given like 23, no 24 webinars, and I'm virtual trainings. I'm scheduled to give 6 more. And through these webinars, like virtual trainings, I have to be creative with my content, using Zoom with my slides. And I see all these are as part of my creativities, because I notice that creativities gives me similar feeling, well, inspiration, like when I'm traveling, when you travel to a new city, when I used to travel to go speak, and it gives me this type of, I don't know what's it called, this type of chemical makes me excited, makes me nervous, makes me scary. At the same time, it helps me to reflect, help push me outside my comfort zone. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, Q, that all these creativities, and really, I just been using different creativities to really help me to balance. Talking about mental health, talking about hope, it has been giving me a lot of hope. It has been grounding me. So, which is awesome. So, Q. So back to creativity and film. I remember a couple weeks ago when we talked, you mentioned that one of your films has received a lot of recognition, like is going on like film festival. Like tell us more about that. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, a film I worked on in 2019. It's called I Never Pick Cotton. It's getting recognized a lot. I actually gave 2 talks on it. Let me see. I was in the Grand Canyon, so it was October 23rd. Yeah, October 23rd. I gave 2 talks over phone because I was traveling, and I just needed to get off. I needed to get off the grid, so I was traveling, camping in the Grand Canyon. So but I still did.
Nice.
Yeah. Speaking about mental health,
Uh-huh.
get outdoors if you can, if it's safe, and do it
Yes.
like smartly. Wear a mask, social distance. But if you can, it's great for your health, mental health, like physical and mental health, if you can. But yeah, I gave some talks, and I think this film, I Never Pick Cotton, it's an animated documentary. It's very short. It's like little less than 4 minutes. I I was one of I was one of 12 directors, and I was the main editor. I also did some animation, and it's doing really well, which is I have so many mixed feelings. And I'm really happy how well it's doing, and it's also heartbreaking that that because it's a film. I should probably start what the film's about. It's about a young African American woman's experience with racism growing up in the United States, and she recalls this traumatic childhood memory where her classmate calls her the N-word on a field trip. It's terrible, and she talks about how it made her feel and her anxieties and fears. And our film has been doing well. It's still doing really well, which I'm really grateful for. It's so humbling to see people want to see our film. At the same time, I wish it was under different circumstances where a lot of the inquiries and the recognition have come from people who are trying to understand racism in the United States. And these are people who have grown up in different communities, and they just were not aware of how bad it actually is outside of their community. So I'm sad because it got very popular after police murdered George Floyd, and people were trying to make sense of what the hell is going on. But at the same time, like I'm glad that our film can serve as a vehicle for people to have these discussions about race relations in the U.S. And what we can do about it. So it's doing very well, from what I can tell. I think it's great. I'm always happy to talk to people about like the process of making it, and a lot of people don't notice about editing and documentary, but a lot of time the documentary is made in the editor's room. You choose like JR, you could like, you know how long we talked for and how long I interviewed
Yes.
for. And then I was like, how am I going to get this down to 5 minutes? 5 minutes. You only get 5 minutes. So like about 8 hours of footage into 5 minutes. So a lot of the times these editing decisions get boiled down to, you know, what is going to stay in your film and what's going to go into the cutting floor. So a lot of times the writing is for editing is there. So I'm happy to talk. I mean, that people have been interested in my process, and especially because I didn't come from a traditional filmmaking background. I really come from public health. Now I do both. So, but yeah, it's been doing well. It's exciting, and I'm just happy that people are trying to learn.
That's awesome. Because so and I'm trying to collect my thoughts. So there's a couple points I want to make. First is a third of my virtual trainings that I have given so far since August, a third of them are diversity and inclusion trainings. And I just feel very privileged and just feel very honored to be able to train any, like I'm talking about, I train two multi-billion-dollar corporations for their employees, part of their ERG, employee resource group, all the way to local companies and nonprofit organization. And it's interesting that one of the organizations asked me to give a 3 hour diversity inclusion training specifically on race and racism. So for a while, for a couple of seconds, I thought about using your film cue. Like I have never picked cotton, that one. At the same time, I was like, okay, maybe I didn't go for it because there is some at the same time they it seemed like they want more educational materials.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very interesting that to see that. And so far, the feedback from that particular workshop training, 3 hour on race and racism, you won't believe it. The most prominent feedback is that I talked too much about white oppression. So that comment blew my mind away because the whole history of race and racism is about oppression. It's about it's like that is a point. And if the participants think that I talked will focus too much on white oppression, I think that I don't know what else to do. You know, I think I just wasted 3 hours on giving them that training. So yeah, so it's very. But maybe next time, maybe I should use your film to like to ease in to. Yeah, people do like films and people do like art, so maybe.
Well, speaking of, at one of the talks I gave, I spoke at, and I need to respond. I really do need to respond to the email because I've been busy. She actually, you know, it was to a class, and one of the class participants suggested that our film get submitted to as a digital addendum or a digital resource for textbooks to teach people about race in America, because they said it's such an impactful film. So when I'm like, yeah, I actually think if you want, yeah, feel free to use our film, because I actually talked to our producer about it because she's responsible for distribution. But because I've been getting a lot of inquiries, I'm like, you know, would you consider using your film as like educational material? And I'm like, yeah. That was actually one of the first comments I got from about I never picked cotton, from one of my close friends. He's my mentor in film. I sent it to him, and his first thought was like, this could be like incredibly like part of it, PBS educational material, you know. And I'm like, yeah, I think it's important. And then speaking about race relations, there's a book. It's called Caste, the Origins of Our Discontents, and it talks about race relations in the U.S. And it's interesting that that they said like, oh, you're talking too much about white oppression, and I was like, whoa, you're right. And I'm like, that's the whole fucking history about
Yeah, there's the whole.
right? So it's like I don't know what else to tell you, dude. It's
I
like
know, yeah, same here. I don't know. And because the funny thing, yeah, I'm like, okay, what else I'm going to talk about? Like, we're going to talk about flowers and orchards and peaches and apples.
yeah, no, it's like it's like yeah, because people totally wanted to be part of the transatlantic. It's like no one wanted, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I think it is. I oscillate between being sympathetic for people who are uncomfortable with this situation. At the same time, it's weird to me. I've been thinking about this a lot because like I don't think I'm the right person to ask sympathy from when it comes to asking about like from someone who legitimately I'm sympathetic to a degree, but I'm also not going to be the most sympathetic person for someone who is now experiencing what it's like to uh, be generalized with their racial group. For first, it's kind of like you're talking to the wrong person. This entire
yes,
fucking year
yeah.
has been the Chinese virus, and they're like, I was like, I don't want you to group me with other white people. I'm like, yeah, I get the discontent, but my dude, you are talking to the wrong person. It's like,
Exactly.
yeah, no, it's I think we'll see how this election plays out. I did vote early. I was
Oh,
very
good.
excited. Yeah, I voted early. I dropped off my ballot. Um, that was very exciting for me, even though I filmed it in the most unexciting way possible. I was like, I nailed it. But you know, I voted early, and it had some really great discussions. If people aren't familiar with California, we have these propositions that we got to vote on pretty much every 2 years. Um, and I had these great discussions with friends and colleagues too about these various propositions. And we didn't agree on everything, but it was, I think for me, I always really enjoy talking about propositions and policies. And I
Mhm.
really miss talking about policies. Like, is this policy good? Is it policy
Yes.
there's one that was a really great, like I was tearing my hair out over it. It was about cash bail in California. And
Hmm.
I'm not gonna talk about it here because that will be a whole long conversation, but it was
Yes.
a great conversation I had with multiple people about
Good.
our cash bail system. And yeah, so I think that like doing that felt very invigorating. And the last thing I also did, I actually came up with a self-care plan for tomorrow.
Cool. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Do you want to share your self-care plan?
Yes. Um, I am going to make myself hot cocoa. And
Nice.
someone actually recommended this to me. She's because I have anxiety. She said, "Why don't you just get some CBD oil and add it to your hot cocoa?" And it's very relaxing. And
Yes.
I was like, "That sounds wonderful." You can in California, you can get it from Rite Aid or CVS, which is nice.
No.
So I'm like, okay,
Really?
yeah,
CBD oil directly from, wow.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, so I said, "Hey, if it's legal here, I'll do it," you know, and I kind of
Yeah.
that was, for me, I got it from friends who also suffer from anxiety and insomnia, and just they're like they're very high strung like I am, so they said
Uh-huh.
hey, they suggested like get some hot chocolate, you know, make hot chocolate, add a little bit of oil. It's very relaxing. I
That's
also
good.
yeah, I also um made a point to be like I am not going to really have any conversations with anybody about the election
Uh-huh.
unless I have to for work. I am, you know, it's just like I think it's one of those things I'm like, there's no point in fretting over things I have no control over.
Yes. Exactly. And yeah, your self-care plan sounds healthier than mine. I'm going to my friend's place, and then she's ordering pizza, and she's ordering pizza, and I'm bringing whiskey and beer.
Oh,
So, so yeah, so that's what we're gonna do.
yeah. I mean, I think for me it's hot chocolate and CBD. I'm gonna do like I'm gonna be tidying up because like Marie Kondo, I really like tidying up. That
Oh,
makes me
you have?
it does,
Nice.
you know. But I think I was talking to my therapist about it, and she said, "Do you have a self-care plan in place?" And I said, "Yeah." My other thing is that every hour I'm gonna get up and write about one thing I can do, like one thing I do have control
Mm,
over.
good,
So like
good,
and something I have done that I had control over. Like I chose to vote early. I voted.
good, good. Yeah.
um, or like I put pants on today. I did
Mhm.
that. um, so I think just framing, because I think it's very easy to kind of um, get overwhelmed by what you can and can't do. I have really been like, I'm going to focus on what I do have control over and choice over,
Exactly,
Yeah, so,
exactly.
and also video games, uh,
Yeah.
video games, man. I just not gonna watch the news. I'm not gonna like. I don't. If I will keep my phone open to friends or family who are anxious and need to talk. But I'm
Yes.
not gonna go out of my way to be like, "Oh my God, did you see CNN? Oh my God, did you see Fox? Did you see?" I was like, "No, no,
Nope,
don't want
nope,
to fucking see
yeah.
it again. Don't want to. So over it."
It's interesting about the video game. So, of course, like 2/3 of the virtual training I have given, they are all mental health training or workshops. And one thing that I love, especially toward the end, that I ask participants to share, what give them hope, what health, well, what activities that they can do under this COVID time to boost their mental health, to, like to feel connected. And a lot of them said video games. And just imagine 20 years ago, if you say video games, boom, there's a stigma, there's a taboo. Nowadays, video games are, yeah, go for it. Am I going to go for it? Like,
I know. Um, Yeah, no, I think for me, the video game, I think it's just sort of that interactivity because we're
mhm,
lacking so much physical social
exactly.
interaction.
Yeah.
Even if it's just like a non-playable character or online, it's something. For me,
Yes.
I find I'm playing Untitled Goose Game, which is a game where you're basically a goose and you harass people, and I very
Yeah.
cathartic. I was like, I just want to be a goose. I just want to harass people. That's all I
Nice.
want everyone to do.
Nice. So besides Grand Canyon, were you able to go to other places?
No, I have been pretty much just working a lot and a bit homebound, but so the Grand Canyon was a really nice.
Nice.
Actually, I decided I'd known one of my best friends. She and I had talked about going for a while, but we didn't know when. But
Hmm.
I knew when the
Okay.
first presidential debate, if you would call it that. I don't think I actually heard a real sentence come from that debate. It
Yes,
was
yeah,
real.
probably
I
not.
I actually got so badly triggered from it. It was really triggering. I just felt horrible, and I wasn't, and I took solace in like I'm not the only one who got triggered from that debate. Um, just like just an awful memory. So I texted my friend. I said, I can't do this anymore. I have got to get the fuck out of here. When are we going to Grand Canyon? She's like, I got
Good.
you. She's like, I got you. So she found a place. She's like, here's where we're going. Here's where we're going. The end. And I said, cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so since our last episode, I have I went on a road trip that
Hmm.
we crossed 14 states from
Oh, nice.
Boston to Dallas. Yeah. And then I did a couple of like big hikes in Colorado. Beautiful, beautiful hikes. And I think I went down and I went back to Dallas once back in September for a couple of days.
Hmm.
And so yeah, so at least and my friend and I we were talking about like because she travels a lot too. I love to travel because I in the past I used travel to balance my mental health. And when the pandemic hit, it was hard. Actually, in the early on of pandemic, it was okay. Because due to the shock, I think due to the shock reaction that okay, it's okay. I can go on without traveling. And now I think I noticed since October came, like I just feeling really itchy, uneasy. And, I feel like my anxiety is coming up because I really need to go somewhere, need to travel. I miss that excitement from traveling, that uncertainty, that challenging myself, and I can start feeling it. As the season changes, as and it's definitely more challenging. I think that this time around. And that being said, fortunately, my friend and my really good friend and his wife were talking about going to Jamaica or Mexico in January. Those are one of the few countries
Well,
that are allowing Americans. And so we are really thinking about seriously thinking going because I have face shield, we have everything. So Q, if you and your boyfriend want to join us in Mexico or Jamaica, we are going to all inclusive resort. And I do have some discount, like some advantages due to my certain hotel status. So if you want to join us for like 5 days or 7 days, just lay on the beach. I don't know, like
nothing.
yeah.
Hey, I won't. I'll think of. I'm like, that's very tempting. I'll definitely get back to you on that.
Yes. Like that's how desperate I am right now. Because in the past, I'm always like I'm nothing against all inclusive resort. I'm thinking about when I'm older, then I will go to all inclusive resorts. But now I think I'm becoming very desperate. That I don't care. I don't care. Just give me somewhere warm by the beach. I don't care. Just like even like if I get an invitation to go to North Dakota, I'm like sure, let's go. I don't at this point I don't give a shit anymore. I just need to go somewhere.
Yeah, no, I think before, right, I think, oh, I have to get going soon. Sorry.
No worries.
But I think one of the most things I've noticed, I'm like, yeah, I've definitely had the travel bug. I think the way I see it is more of like a marathon. Like the when this pandemic started, I was like, hell no, it's not going to end in just like 6 weeks. It's not just going to end. No,
No, yeah.
I know how this shit goes. So I studied this shit. Um, I think of it more of like, hey, I always kind of half joke. I'm like, hey, I survived this year, and every new year. But this one's literally like, no, you literally survived 2020. If you survived 2020, good job. Like you did it. Yeah, I think it's like I think for me it's sort of like I think it will eventually hit me like how insane this all was. At the moment, I'm still kind of in this resilience mode of like just like kind of like get through this moment, get through the next day,
Good,
get just
good.
like one step at a time, which has been very helpful. Still thinking about long term, but also like an immediate status. I want like, did I make my bed today? Did I brush my teeth? Did I eat breakfast?
Hmm.
Did I do this? Just to get through the day.
Hmm.
Very helpful. So then I can eventually, and also like my boyfriend and I have been making this like wish list of like where we're gonna go when everything's safe. We've been like, we're gonna go here, we're gonna go there, and we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. It's just like it keeps our spirits up to be like we're thinking hopefully like very optimistically in terms of like this is all the things we're gonna like if we keep ourselves healthy and safe and this is where we can go after all
Exactly.
shit is done.
Yes.
But make that all inclusive, I'm like tempting. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm
So
thinking about it.
maybe, yeah, maybe down the line, one of the episodes, we can invite like your boyfriend and a couple of friends, and let's just talk about where can we go after this whole thing end. What's just one episode talk about vacation plans in 2022 or something. I don't know.
I know. It's like 2022, 2021. I don't know.
Yeah. So, all right, Q. I know that you have to go. So it's great catching up with you. And for those listener or viewers, thank you so much for watching. And yeah, and please stay tuned for our next episode. Hopefully, it will be most likely, yeah, it will be coming out after the election, and you will definitely hear our thoughts, reactions, and insights from whatever the results. So, all right, then, stay tuned. See you
Yeah,
all.
yeah. Stay safe. Definitely vote if you haven't already. But stay safe and take care of yourselves. Okay.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Bye.